What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Dino's the Fantasy Guru. Thanks for joining the live stream today. We'll get started shortly. Stay tuned. What is up, everybody? It's your boy Dino's the Fantasy Guru. It is week 13. Week 13. Hope everybody had a good holiday and enjoyed the time with your family and food, and of course, football. But of course, this is fantasy we're speaking of today. Week 13, we are 2 weeks out from the fantasy playoffs. Usually week 14 is the final week of the regular season, with weeks 15 through 17 being your playoffs. It's been a long season. It's been a short season as well. It seems like the season just started and we're almost at the penultimate week heading into the playoffs. Hope you guys are hanging in there. It's been a very trying season with a shit ton of injuries. We do have more to speak of on this particular show. I just want to recap the 4 games that have already been played in week 13. You know, we had the 3 games on Thanksgiving. Gonna do a little bit out of order, so just bear with me. As you can see, Saquon Barkley is on the screen. A lot of fantasy players have been snake bitten by Saquon this year. Typically, you don't want to take a running back that has like a historic season or like a 2,000-yard season. Usually the following year they tend to take off, but no one could expect it. This type of decline for Saquon, albeit healthy, but the production just hasn't been there for where folks drafted him. I have 2 shares of Saquon, and just haven't been getting much. I'm scared as shit, as you should be too, going into the playoffs with Saquon Barkley. At some point, we all expected him to snap out of it. I believe he only has 2 100-yard games this season. 2. I mean, shit. Calvin Nungai for the Bears has 2. No, actually, he has 3 100-yard rushing games this season. Saquon has 2. So, if we want to talk about the Madden curse, yay, nay, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you think Saquon is a victim of the Madden curse. Another thing to note with the Eagles fantasy-wise is Jalen Hurts. Yeah, he put up about 23 fantasy points. He had the 2 touchdowns, but good Lord, it's not pretty at all. I would say if you have Jalen Hurts, don't watch the game. just don't watch the game. Go do something else and just come back and look at the stats. Because if you watch the game, you won't be happy. You'll be very, very, very tempted to go to your backup. If you have a decent backup, let's say you have, I know in one league I have Matt Stafford. So I toy every week, but Stafford's been, hotter than fish grease. I toy every week. Do I play Saquon? Excuse me. Do I play Stafford over Hurts? You know, just waiting. At some point, Hurts is going to explode and have like a 4 touchdown game. Of course, you got the tush push that is actually starting not to work anymore. I still believe that the NFL is going to vote this shit out of the league going into next year, but every week is like that tough decision with Jalen. Like, do I go with Jalen or do I go with the backup? The best advice I can give you is don't watch the game if you start Jalen. If you go with your backup, just make sure it's in a high volume passing offense. Jalen does make up for some of his air deficiency on the ground, so you get a couple cheap points there. Say like a Justin Herbert, but even with him, he's streaky. You have those hot cold games. He can go out there and lay the egg at any point, and he doesn't necessarily run every week either, so you don't get those points either. Just something to keep in mind. But I am nervous for the Eagles going into the fantasy playoffs, just with the production. It looks like AJ Brown is awakened, but the rest of the team has gone to sleep. So, kind of rolling the dice with any Eagles at this point, especially Saquon. I would really, really keep an eye on his numbers the next 2 weeks. I think he had 60 yards yesterday, maybe 13 carries. Obviously, that's not enough carries to get a significant amount of yards based on the way the offense is flowing. So just something to keep in mind. You may want to try to position yourself with another back going into the playoffs if Saquon continues on this trend. Something to note. Now, as far as the opponent in that game, the Chicago Bears, let's bring Caleb on the screen. Did you realize that the Bears could be the number 1 seed in the NFC after this week, depending on how these games play out today? Who would have thought that shit, right? And as far as fantasy, Caleb Williams is still a mid-tier quarterback. He's not elite yet, but he's trending towards, you say, if Luke the Burden comes along, you got 2 good running backs. Monangai and Swift went off Friday for 281 yards. That's crazy. Nobody saw that coming. Like I said, Caleb is a middle of the road quarterback. Don't expect huge numbers out of him. Just if he can get you 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, that's a win. Yes, he's going to get some yardage on the ground, but it's not consistent, right? He does his little whirly derby reverse spin, and then he'll run for like 10 or 15 yards. You're good for that. But I wouldn't expect more than 30 yards or so from him rushing, especially with those 2 running backs. He doesn't have to run now. If you're going to run for 280 every game, he may only pass 15 to 20 times. So I guess the assumption was when Brian Johnson went there as head coach that they would have this wide open offense like Detroit, but it's been the complete opposite. They're a grinding, running style offense with an occasional play action pass. That's what they are. But the Bears are 9-3. I think the Bears are going to win that division, and they could possibly be the number 1 overall seed. As far as their pass catchers, Duvernay, he's had a few games, but then he's kind of cooled off. Loveland had his big breakout a few weeks ago, and he kind of came back early again. It seems like for Chicago, you want those running backs, especially now getting into, which I'm going to talk about once we wrap up these few games here. Weather is going to be a factor going forward. We're going into December, especially in the Northeast and the Northwest. Weather will be a factor. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later after this recap. But you want running game for Chicago. I know it sounds crazy. Y'all thought it was going to be a high pass offense. It's not. You want those running backs. If you can get your hands on I doubt if he's still available in any leagues at this point. Um, I did swing a trade a few weeks ago. I think I mentioned it. I traded Michael Pittman Jr. for DeAndre Swift, and that trade is working out pretty well for me. So thank you for accepting my trade. The other notable game on Thanksgiving, we had the Bengals and the Ravens. That was the night game. I'm gonna tell you like this: um, Lamar Jackson is not healthy, folks. It's clear and evident they rushed him back out of desperation. The way that the team was playing, they were losing games, and I believe they rushed him back too soon. Lamar isn't running the same. His passes are off. They already had a mediocre passing game as is, so you really needed Lamar to run for him to have fantasy relevance, and he's just not doing it. So if you have Lamar Jackson going into these playoffs, I promise you need to start looking for another option because Lamar will fuck around and get you bounced. Uh, it's just not working. He's not healthy. I don't think he's going to be healthy enough to put up the numbers you expected, especially going into the playoffs. I would start looking for another option. If you are a Lamar Jackson owner, I would start looking for another option. Now, the trade deadline has come and gone. Most trade deadlines were, I believe, Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. So you can't make a trade. It's too late. you got to get that waiver wire and hope and pray because I'm sure Tyrod Taylor may be serviceable. He's out there. The Jets more than likely will be trailing in all of their games, so they'll be passing. I know J.J. McCarthy had the phantom concussion. His ass got benched because he's dumpster juice. But Bosman, however you pronounce his name, I'm going to pay attention to that game today to see what he looks like. I did have J.J. McCarthy as a backup in one of my leagues and promptly dropped him as fast as I could. And I picked up Tyrod Taylor. Hence why I'm suggesting him as a viable option as a backup quarterback. If you are a Lamar Jackson owner, and depending on your league depth, if you're in a 14-team league, good luck because it ain't shit out there. But if you're in a 10-team, you should still have some pretty decent quarterbacks out there. I know Kyler Murray is still on IR. He should be coming back soon. That's someone else you can possibly pick up. And man, it's slim pickings this year. I'm telling you, because even your top quarterbacks, I think Josh Allen only put up 8 fantasy points last week. It's been kind of been feast or famine. Like if you have the right quarterback, you eat good. It's Thanksgiving every day. But if you got the ones that are struggling, it's like Skid Row. So it's kind of there is no, usually it's like 15 points, right? I'll take that out of the quarterback slide any week. You give me 15 to 20, I'm good. But it's either you got Stafford going off 35-40, and you got Lamar and Josh putting up less than 10, right? Make it make sense. But the Bengals may make some noise in this division now with Burrow coming back in. And I know I said it right here on this show. I thought Burrow would be done for the year. I said there's no way he plays. There's no reason to play. Bengals are out of it. Chase is probably going to shut it down. And between all of that, the Bengals did win a couple games, and the teams. It seems like the Steelers are a mess. You never know what they're going to do week to week. So the teams are actually falling back to the Bengals. Bengals actually have a shot. And this is real life and fantasy because I did with Burrow. Someone dropped him. And I'm like, well, thank you very much. I'll put him in my IR slot and just wait. And he's back. So I played him and I was rewarded. 260 and 2 touchdowns. Could have had more. But I'll take that after an 8-week absence. I'll take that. So if you are a Joe Burrow owner, congratulations. You will be rewarded for hanging on to him instead of just dropping. So I know and the fact that T. Higgins wasn't even out there, it was just Chase. Now you throw Higgins back out there. So, they do play the Ravens again. And it's a 3-horse race in the NFC North now. I hate to say it, but it is. But moving on to the first game on Thanksgiving, as customary, the Detroit Lions always play the first game on Thanksgiving. Amon-Ra St. Brown went down early with an ankle injury. From the reports I read, it was a low ankle injury, not a high. Low ankle injury sprain. So they dodged the bullet. He'll probably miss a game because they play Thursday. I doubt he makes it back in time for that Thursday game against Dallas. So Amon-Ra is going to be out 1 week. And I know everybody's chomping at the bit. Who do I pick up in waivers because he's going to at least miss a game, possibly two max. Uh, the store clerk, wide receiver Kennedy. I don't know if you've seen his picture. The man doesn't look like he played a down in football. He looks like he works at like your local IGA. Shout out to Kurt Warner. I would go with him in a PPR format. I believe he caught all four of his targets. I believe for about 35, 40 yards. He'd be a good get for a PPR. If you're in a standard league, you want Tesla. Tesla's the down the field receiver who was almost forgotten. He was a preseason, excuse me. He was a preseason fantasy darling and just faded into oblivion. A la Jaworski Merritt, aka Bill, who I promptly dropped in all four of my leagues, and you should as well. There's no reason to keep him. The Commanders are a mess without Jake Daniels, and we all got hoodwinkled, as Denzel said, and bamboozled, and led astray, and ran them up, and hoodwinkled. I think I got them all. Anywho, Amon-Ra St. Brown will be out for a couple weeks. I gave you my thoughts and opinions on who you should pick up to replace those numbers. Now, as far as Detroit as a whole, they're fucked. The reason they are fucked is because they've lost that spark that they had last year when they had Brian Johnson. Dan Campbell is calling plays now, and I watched that game Thursday, and there was a bunch of calls where it's like 3rd and 1. You just call a dive for Gibson, who's the smaller of the two backs. So you basically just neutralizing his speed. No creativity. It's like once St. Brown went out, they already were down Laporta. They're living him. And if they don't figure this shit out sooner or later, it's a good chance the Lions could possibly miss the playoffs. It's a chance they could miss the playoffs. As far as your fantasy players, they, besides Gibbs, like I want no parts of golf. Once he got his head ripped off a couple weeks ago, that's the blueprint. So now every team going forward, they're just gonna bliss the shit out of him. So if you don't pressure golf, he sits back there, he'll pick you apart. And that's why he was good for fantasy because he was accurate and he would complete a bunch of passes. He'd throw for 300, sometimes 400 yards, multiple touchdowns. I don't see that the rest of the season. He may have maybe a good game left in him the rest of the season to where he puts up those type of numbers. But without St. Brown or Laporta, it's just not happening. I definitely wouldn't trust him in a playoff matchup. It's just too iffy right now. So again, my apologies to the Jared Goff fantasy owners if you have him as your QB1 going into the playoff weeks. But yeah, man, the St. Brown injury sucked. I do own St. Brown in one league, and I own Higgins. So I kind of took 2 shots to the belly this week with my wide receivers. But that was the recap for the holiday games. But now we can talk about today's games. Today's games should be, I wouldn't say the best matchups in the world, but like I said, right now, I'm more or less looking for production out of the backup players. Because again, we're going into playoffs. I guess this is a good segue for me to talk about how to prepare for the playoffs. Because we have not a lot of new fantasy players that don't know how to do this. So when you're getting down to, say, a couple weeks before your playoff starts, you have bench spots. You don't want to just have random players sitting on your bench. Now is the time to go and handcuff your starters. Handcuff meaning the backup. So if you have running backs, if you can go get the backup. If he gets hurt, you have the backup, you're fine. Go get the backup. At this point, you should either know you're in the playoffs, qualify for the playoffs, or know your ass is out of it. So if you're in the first two, it's time to go and set your roster up for the playoff push. Hence, handcuffs. Get your handcuffs. Number two, you want to start watching the weather. You want to start watching the weather forecast for these games. I know today there's a lot of rain in most of these games and a lot of wind. So when you have that, obviously you don't want the fucking kicker that's kicking in the monsoon. So something else to think about. And you have to downgrade your receivers in a wet game. They're not going to be passing a lot. It's going to be a lot of running. And even on the defensive side, sloppy game, you probably want to pick up a defense in that game. It won't be a lot of points scored. It could be a lot of turnovers. Just more things to think about in fantasy as if we didn't have enough. So, moving on, we'll recap. Start preparing for the playoffs. It is week 13. Get your handcuffs now before it's too late. So, as far as today's slate, we have San Francisco at Cleveland. Shedeur Sanders makes his second start. I know a lot of people did go and pick him up off waivers, hoping to catch lightning in the bottle. You won't really see it this week. This is one of these games that I just spoke about with shitty weather. There's a lot of rain and wind expected in Cleveland, and it's going to be cold. You want running backs in this game, so Judkins or McCaffrey. If I had to go outside those two, Kittle should probably have a good game because if they do pass, it won't be down the field. It'll be thinking done. So McCaffrey and Judkins should eat in this particular game. Next game, we have Jacksonville at Tennessee. Don't be surprised if Tennessee wins this game. You know, Jacksonville is known for tricking off games they're supposed to win. This should be a no-brainer. Tennessee is really in another rebuild. They only have one win. They have an interim head coach. Cam Ward has started to play a little bit better of late, but I mean, when you're throwing the ball 40 times a game, you can't help but put up numbers because you have to throw it because you're trailing 90% of the game. But Jacksonville, Bashaw Tootin was another get if you can scoop him up off waivers. ETN has been playing well, but I know he's also injury prone. I believe that's actually going to turn into a split. There's another committee that I want to talk about when we get to these later games that I'm not happy about. So moving on to Houston and the Colts. The Colts are reeling, and it's not looking good for JT. If you're a JT owner, my condolences. Teams have figured out that Indiana Jones has reverted back to just Daniel Jones. And they're going to force him to win. They're going to force him to throw the ball. They're taking JT away. He's still going to get, 50, 60, 70 yards a game, but those 130 yard, 3 touchdown games, done. Done for the rest of the season. It's not going to happen. The defense is not adjusted. So if you own any of the Colts receivers, you may see an uptick in production, but I wouldn't get too excited. I wouldn't get too excited about that. As far as the Houston is concerned, DJ Stroud is back from concussion after missing the last 3 games. The red zone offense for Houston is atrocious. For some odd reason, when they get near the goal line, they just have brain farts. It's like just, KISS is what my football coach used to say. Keep it simple, stupid. It's a yard. Run. Look for your tight end. Throw it to the back pylon. They just call the most ass plays when they get inside the red zone, and it's frustrating if you have Woody Marks or Nico Collins because it's like, hey, it's time to eat. we need these 6 points. And they get it down there and they just fuck it up. So I feel your frustration if you are a Houston Texans player owner on offense. Their kicker is Money Fairburn. He's back. I know he had the I believe groin or quad injury. But these are two indoor teams, and I spoke earlier about weather. That's probably a kicker you want to go get if he's still available. He's kicking indoors. I believe 6 of the last, excuse me, 5 of the, 4 of the last 5 weeks. Jesus. Sorry about that, folks. But moving on to the next game, we have the Saints and the Dolphins. It is in South Beach. I believe they are also expecting rain. No Kamara today for the Saints. Devin Neal gets to start. Not quite sure how that's going to work. Estime is still there too. That's another name you might want to pay attention to. I'm not sure how those carries are going to play out with those two filling in for Kamara. Taysom Hill is another name that keeps coming up. What up, Coach Corey? Thanks for joining. I'm gonna put the link in the chat here in a moment when I finish up these wrap-ups. But as far as Miami concerned, radio, I don't know what he's gonna do. The Dolphins are a mystery, and again, you would think they would handle business against the Saints. I wouldn't be surprised if they lost, even at home with a mediocre, depleted Saints team that I didn't think would win a game. I think they have 2 wins. Tyler Shook, that ain't spelled like Shook, gets to start for the Saints. I'm not sure if Olave is going to play or not. He was questionable, but they might want to pay attention to that getting closer to kickoff. So I'm going to run through these games really quick, and I'm going to open up the chat room. I'm going to put the link in the comments. You join that, you click that link, and then I'll add you to the stage, and then we can just chop it up for another 20 minutes before kickoff. Hopefully, you've already set your lineups. Next game on the slate is the Falcons and the Jets. The Falcons, of course, without Drake London and Penix Jr. I believe rain is in the forecast in the Meadowlands. So again, this is going to be one of those sloppy running games. Don't expect much out of these pass catchers. Bijan should eat in this game, and so should Breece Hall. Next up is the Cardinals and the Bucks. Looks like Baker Mayfield is going to give it a go because I have him in my big money league, and I was worried because I didn't have a good backup. But Baker is going to give it a go. He's got the AC sprain in his non-throwing shoulder. It's a matter of pain tolerance. So I'm kind of hanging on a thread here, and he could take a shot and then be out of the game again. So hopefully he's got that thing well padded. As far as the Cardinals are concerned, Brissett gets to start again for the Cardinals. Maserati Marv is back from his appendectomy. They have a pretty good connection. I did pick up Kyler Murray and put him in the IR spot, but I don't even know if he plays even when he's ready to play. I believe Brissett may just ride out the rest of this season for the Cardinals. So if you picked him up off waivers, that was a pretty good get. I totally missed that one because I could definitely use Jacoby Brissett right now with Baker being somewhat injured. Bucky Irvin also almost missed it. Bucky Irvin is also back in action today, and this is the game that I wanted to mention that the damn timeshare that I don't like. It's going to be a fucking mess in Tampa because now you got Sean Tucker, you got Rashad White, and now you got Bucky Irvin coming back. And according to Todd Bowles, they just gonna go with that. They're gonna ease Bucky in, but essentially it's gonna be a threesome, which is the worst. It's the same thing that's going on in DC. I wouldn't touch it. And I know people took Bucky probably in the first or second round. He's got 2 injuries. He's undersized, and the coach basically said, "Yeah, we're easing him back in." So Tucker's still gonna see touches, even at an RB3. You kind of want to avoid this shit like play because you're going to frustrate yourself. You're going to pick the wrong week to play your guy, and then he's going to go off when he's sitting on your bench. I promise you, this is how this always plays out. Stay away. Find somebody else that's got a more comfortable share of the carries and touches. But moving on, I see it's 11:35. I'm trying to get through these pretty quick. And I do see a few comments. I will get to those in just a moment. We have the Rams and the Carolina Panthers, who are actually damn near, I believe they are in first place in the NFC South. Who would have said that about 8 weeks ago? Uh, Stafford's been on the heater. I think the Panthers defense is better than people think. I think Stafford kind of comes back to earth a bit this week because that Panthers defense is actually pretty good. It's just a matter if their offense can put up points to keep them in the game and keep the defense from getting tired out being on the field too long. Puka, Puka's out there. Kyron Williams. It's going to be a decent game for the Rams, but not what we've been seeing the past few weeks. Carolina, who I believe has the Rookie of the Year, Teteroa McMillan. Emeka Ibuka was the front runner for Rookie of the Year, but he's kind of cooled off the past few weeks, and he also had an injury in there. But Teteroa's been just quietly putting up numbers. So if you're a betting man, I would take him for your Rookie of the Year probably. If you haven't done so already. Next game, we got the Vikings and the Seahawks. This is at Seattle. It's that time of year where Darnold kind of goes into a shell. He's been hot and cold the last 4 weeks. I think he gets hot this week. The Vikings are just a mess. They went to bed with the J.J. McCarthy selection, and I believe I said that last year. I said that when they drafted him, that he's not that good. He is a system quarterback. He was a product of being at Michigan with a good run game and a good defense. So that made him look way better than he actually is. Henceforth, bad draft pick. So the Vikings might as well just cut their losses, pay him off, and get into the Archman and sweepstakes. Like, you're not going to the playoffs. Just let these last few games go. At least you got a shot. But I'll go over that on another stream as we're fighting time here. Next game, we have the Bills and Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers has the wrist, but he is going to play. I'm not quite sure how this game is going to go because both defenses are Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? And so are the quarterbacks. Josh Allen can put up 40 fantasy points and put up 8. So TBD on this game. Next game, Vegas Raiders at Chargers. No Omarion Hampton this week. I know those owners were excited to get him back. Sorry, you have to wait another week. Pity to the fool for those who dropped Kamani Vidal. That was a bad decision. I did pick him up in 2 leagues because I knew there was a chance that Hampton was not going to play. And as far as the Vegas Raiders are concerned, there were some rumblings about making a quarterback change. At this point, does it really matter? Gino's pretty much ruined Brock Bowers owners. His numbers, he had the one big breakout game with the 3 touchdowns, but as a whole in the season, it's a bust because I know people took Bowers. He was the number 1 tight end off the board, and you expected wide receiver numbers at the tight end slot, and you didn't get it. So that's quite depressing because I do own Bowers in 4 leagues, but he's an amazing player. He's just on a bad fucking team. Unfortunately, he's on a very bad team. Moving on to the Sunday night game, the Broncos at the Commanders. This game could be over at halftime. Bo Nix, I don't know how he keeps winning because when I watch it, I just don't see it. But Denver they keep winning, and Washington just keeps losing. So not much to know on this particular game. And then I'll close it out with the Monday night game. We have the Giants. Jackson Dart's returning for the Giants, and they are playing New England. New England actually has the best record in the NFL at 10-2. Travion Henderson has slowly taken that backfield away from Ramondre Stevenson. That's about goddamn time. And I know every Travion Henderson owner echoes those sentiments. That was the slate for this week. I am going to get my shit together here. I'm going to put this in the chat. So anybody who wants to join and chop it up with me live, you can do so. I know I have a few comments I need to respond to, so I will do that now. All right. So if you look in the comments, there is the link to join the show. Chop it up with your boy for the next 15 minutes before kickoff. But I'm going to answer these few questions. Let's see. That was Coach Corey. Thanks for joining, Coach Corey. The link's in the chat if you want to join. And we got another question here. Bucky Irvin versus Brian Thomas Jr. as a flex. Whew, damn. Well, I'm a man of my words, and I did say avoid that Bucks backfield, so I will go with Brian Thomas Jr. reluctantly. I don't trust Sunshine. That's Trevor Lawrence, if he didn't know who that was. I don't really trust him, but I would go with BJ in that matchup over Bucky. I kind of want to wait and see on that Bucky Irvin situation. Let's see how that plays out. Now, Burrow was different. You throwing Burrow out there no matter what when he comes back, with the running back situation in Tampa's a bit different. I would pause on that to move and go with BTJ. All right. And we had another comment earlier. Brady Ballard, how about them Cowboys? I know. Here you guys go. Look, I'm going to say something that I probably never will say. Cowboys are going to fucking win that division. That's right. What's today? November 30th? Now, I know it ain't December yet, because usually December is when y'all go to shit. But right now, y'all cooking. Y'all got some defensive player backs. And fucking Jerry Jones looks like a genius right now, picking up, Clark on the inside, and now you got Williams. So you stout against the run up the middle, and you start getting some secondary help. Your offense was already scoring points. And again, nobody wins that division back to back. It hasn't happened in 20 years now? So if you were a betting man, I would put money on the Cowboys to win the NFC East. And I know Stephen A is probably pissed, but I think it's going to happen. Philly looks like shit. Their offense is terrible. I don't even know how their offensive coordinator still picks up the check on Tuesday or Monday, whenever they get their checks. But it's been bad. And the fact they were winning all those games early saved them, because just imagine if they lost a couple of those games early. They'd be 2 games behind the Cowboys at this point. They're only 2 games in front, and they still have to play at Philly. Because Dallas just beat them, what was that, Sunday? All right, so I'm going to leave this up. If anybody wants to join the show, the link is in the description. Click that link, and then I will join you into the show, and then we can chop it up. If anybody has any questions, start sits, you can put those in the chat, and I'll respond to them. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Thank you for joining the stream. Share with a friend, or likes fantasy football, someone you're trying to introduce to fantasy football. I'm a wealth of knowledge. I've been playing fantasy football for 20 plus years, and I decided to start this channel this year. I don't know why I waited so long, but I'm here now. We're going to have some fun with this. We're about 15 minutes from kickoff. If you have any last minute roster questions, we want to get those in now. Again, today, the theme of the day is weather. Weather. Put your rain jacket on, your rain boots, get your green screen and point and wind gusts and all this shit. The weather's going to be a factor today. So, again, I will leave this up to anybody that has questions for about another 5 or 10 minutes. Again, this is your boy Dino, the Fantasy Guru. Thanks for joining. Enjoy the games today. Happy holidays. I'll be back next time. Peace. All right. Coach Corey, what's good?
Hey, what's up, Dinos, man?
All right, man. Thanks for joining the stream. Yeah, let me get you on the screen right here. Yeah, man. I just like this week gonna be ass with this weather.
Yeah, but this the best time of the year. I want to see all the snow games and all the cold games, because you're gonna see who really gonna let them hang today.
Oh yeah, yeah. You gonna get it because I think it's gonna. I think it was snowing the Ohio State game last night, so it's definitely gonna be snowing in Cleveland.
Oh
It's a
yeah,
chance it could be snowing in New York. It's a chance of snow in Seattle. So you're gonna get your wish. And I think it's just supposed to rain like hell in San Francisco. Not San Francisco, Miami.
yep. Hey, I'm glad to see it, man. I want to see it.
Cool, man. Did you have a
So,
good holiday?
it's, it was okay, man. It was the first one since I lost my mom, so it'll work, man.
My condolences for your loss, coach.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Other than that, everything has been well, man. I'm just coming from a football meet because we are playing for a state championship next weekend.
All right.
So I'm happy.
That's cool, man. Where the game at?
Missouri Western in St. Joseph's, Missouri.
Whew, the sticks.
Oh yeah, we just played yesterday in Kansas City.
Okay.
We're back home today, and then we going right back up there next week.
Yeah, well, hopefully the weather works out because I know we had that snowstorm Saturday, and that jacked up a lot of traffic.
I think Kansas City is getting it today, and we may get a little bit tomorrow. But the 7-day forecast out there is not supposed to be too bad. It'll be cold. It was cold this week, so yeah. It's one of those things you can't really worry about. This is the last game, no matter what.
No matter what, just gotta deal with it. That's cool, man. I know I know. I looked outside. I was like, I'm not shoveling that. we gonna let the good old sun take care of that.
Yeah. That's why we actually came back yesterday after the game. I had intended on staying in Kansas City because I have some friends and family there. But when we got the snow, we just decided to come on back after the game because we weren't really quite sure how everything was going to be. So
yeah, that
back.
Was smart. That was smart.
And we got to go.
If anybody's still on the stream, thanks for joining. This is Dino's Fantasy Guru. My good friend Coach Corey jumped in and chopped it up with us today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, share the channel, subscribe, share, comment. If you have any start-sit questions, you got about 2 minutes before I shut this down, and I can respond to your question in real time. But yeah, Coach, this fantasy year has been.
Yeah, it's rough. I heard the comments about Brock Bowers. It is unfortunate that he is on the team that he's on because the young man has a lot of potential.
Right.
And he's just not getting the opportunity with the direction that the Raiders are in and headed in at the moment. But hopefully
the Raiders get in on the
around.
Sweepstakes?
I'm not really sold on Arch either. Because he came in with a lot of fanfare, and I don't really believe he's ready to leave college. So I think they'll be taking a big risk getting in on that sweepstakes because I think he needs another year in college.
Okay, so the jury's out on Arch. Who do you think is the best quarterback coming out for next season? So this is called pre-scouting for next fantasy year.
I'm not really sure. I think there's a lot of good quarterbacks, but I don't know if they're able to be ready to go right into the NFL and be a starter.
Mm-hmm.
You're running out of those guys. I think most of the quarterbacks now need time to develop in a system. I just don't think there's no Cam Wards or JJ McCarthy's, those guys in this draft class.
But that's a good point you made, because that's what I was saying earlier, that a lot of these teams are going for these athletic quarterbacks, and they're trying to put the circle inside the triangle. You don't run a type of offense that's catered to an athletic type quarterback. You trying to make them pocket passes. That's just not what they do. Because I know I made a post a few weeks ago about Justin Fields that he should switch to running back, because basically that's what he is. He's a running back trying to play quarterback, and he's a gifted runner. He's big enough. He's durable enough. He's a terrible passer. He's a terrible quarterback. So I'm not sure why no one has made him at least consider making that switch. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think Justin Fields is probably the one that's probably not wanting to make a move to running back. And that's fine. That's his prerogative. But he's got to invest more time in being a better quarterback, because throwing is way too important in the NFL these days.
Yep. Exactly.
So if that's where your deficiency is, you really need to put more work in that area. Because granted, he can always run
all the time.
But that is an action for a quarterback that needs to happen after you can't throw. It shouldn't be the first thing that comes to your mind. And unfortunately, that's where he is, because I think he understands he's not a gifted thrower, and he kind of panics a little bit. And he would rather run because it covers up his inability to throw.
Yeah, so he's like I said, he's an anomaly. I tell you that. Like I said, he's super gifted and athletic, and I kind of think about Slash when I think about Fields. Cordell Stewart.
Yep.
But Cordell Stewart can throw.
Yeah, and that's the problem. He's not as good of a thrower as Slash was. And that is a problem. When you look at the big picture of what he's trying to accomplish.
Right.
He's not a good enough thrower to be in that Slash role.
Exactly. All right, Coach, it's 11:53. I got to get ready for kickoff. But thanks for joining. Hey, next time we need to try to get Drew ass on here. We can chop it up for real. I'll extend it to an hour-long show, and we can chop it up for a bit. But yeah, let's try to get Drew on here next time.
Yeah, I don't know what Drew's doing.
He got family stuff, man. I get it. And his Eagles been shit water the last couple weeks, so he
probably hiding. Probably hiding his face.
We'll find him. Drew is our other good friend. He's a devout Eagles fan, and he's licking his wounds right now. But we'll try to get him on the live stream sooner than later. But that's it for this week, folks. Thank you for joining Dino's Fantasy Guru. And I'm going to close this stream out. Coach Corey, thanks for joining. We'll be back next week. We'll be back next week with another show. Hopefully we'll have more guests, more questions. Again, if you didn't get your question into the chat live, you can also comment on the video when I repost. I do check those all the time, and I'll respond promptly. Thank you for joining. Enjoy the football Sunday. Have a good week, everybody. Peace.